Welcome back to the Always Right podcast. I'm author Karisa DeLay.
And I'm Jaime
And
Vendera. I'm Jaime
yes, he's
Vendera. See, I'm in
Vendera?
meditation. I don't even know what the hell I'm saying.
You don't even know your name.
I don't.
You got a
It's the
new water
hydrogen
bottle.
water. Yes, you can't
It's
see the little bubbles coming up, but I'm trying the hydrogen water. I'm not that impressed with it yet. I don't notice. I didn't turn 20 years younger. I don't have more energy, but I want to keep giving it a try.
honestly, it looks like the thing I used to have my sea monkeys in.
There could be sea monkeys in there. Oh my God, you just took me back, though. I miss sea. And then how cruel, really. You
Yeah.
raise them little brine shrimp and you let them die because you quit feeding them as a kid.
Yeah, it's so weird. I remember just yeah. Anyways, all right. Today's topic?
Resumes, like Joe Dirte. Just add an E on the end of it. It's no big deal.
Resumes.
Yes, resume.
And we're doing this because if people don't know already that we write, or not write, we podcast about everything writing, and we have to write resumes for certain situations. Most generally, resumes are now online. You can send them in an email, but you still have to formulate it. There are a lot of templates out there, but at the same time, it could be a little overwhelming for some people. What do I put on my resume, or what is it about? So let's get started. What is a resume, Jaime?
Oh, man, we got a lot of notes. You know me,
Yeah, good
JDHD.
notes.
So basically, your resume, it's a marketing tool. It showcases what your qualifications are. So if you're trying for a job, whether it doesn't matter, it's a newspaper, as an auto mechanic, this, that, they want to know your experience. They want to know who you are and if you're qualified for that job. So it's basically like tell all about me and my experience and my skill set and what I can bring to the table to land this job.
Yeah. And when you say that, though, you have to keep in mind that these are not all one size fits all type situation. That some jobs, like we've talked in query letters, we've talked publishing companies, resumes are no different. Some jobs will require certain criteria on your resume to be listed. Like they may want to know certain things that you've done in the past that fit for the job that you're going for.
Well, that's like if you see a job that you want, you definitely got to review that website and see, ooh, my hydrogen water just went off, and then that squirrel went by. Yes.
Wait, your water bottle has a notification thing?
Yeah, didn't you see it was blue? Did you see the little blue light?
I saw a lot. Yeah, but I didn't.
Hold on. Let's see if I can. No, I'm still me. So anyway, back to this.
It'd be really interesting for recording and you morph into something else.
I could tell I haven't seen you in 2 weeks because I'm too excited. And I don't want to talk over you. I had to smack me. But when you're doing this resume, you definitely got to pay attention to what they're looking for. They're going to have, like she just said, they're going to have different expectations. You're going to want to know what they expect in your resume. You don't want it to be just thrown on the pile like every other one. You got to stand out if you really want this job.
So. My husband had an experience when he was writing a professional email. There was a person in town, I will not name names, who at the time was willing to help him construct his resume more professionally. It was a suggestion from someone, and then he met up with him, and it turned into a gloating session where this person literally was like, "Here's my resume, and like this is what I have, and this is what I have, and me and me and me and me." It was never like, "Let me help you." It was, "Look what I've done." Yeah. Basically, it was a showcase of their own resume, and it didn't help at all.
I had a construction friend, and he knew that I was an author, so this had been 15-something years ago. And he said, "Man, would you mind taking a look at my resume?" And I don't write resumes, but I've had to write bios and stuff for myself, other authors. So he sent it to me. And there was a couple things I had to, to make the grammar better. I'm like, hey, remember that time we worked on this job and you had this OSHA certification and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I said, dude, we got to put that in there. We got to put this in there. Everything that you're qualified to do. And I forget what the job was, but I remember him thanking me. He's like, dude, I got the job over all these other applicants. And I'm telling you, it's because you helped me tighten up that resume. So, nice. And it was, I did his, so it was like, look at me and I do this. No, I'm teasing. But it did. I mean, it really made him, and it wasn't a lie. It was like, I'm like, dude, you've done this. Let's make sure we show your skill set.
And it's kind of like when you're writing about the author, in a sense, it's really hard to write about yourself and to not sound like you're gloating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is kind of like an itemized fluff piece.
It is too, but I
So,
mean, and you may like if I were to start a resume, I would probably look at every skill set I have. I break glass, I teach this, I write books. Now, but before I would throw all that out at somebody, of course, I would go to the website. I'd want to review the job description, what it
mhm,
entails, because they may be like, oh, we work in really quiet environments. So if I'm like, I got a really big, loud mouth, that might go against
that
me.
may
So, so I
right?
don't have to fluff it up that much.
Right. Well, and so like you said, reviewing the job website as far as what the job criteria is, what the description is, and going through there and almost making bullet points. Okay, this is you make your own personal bullet points, and maybe take your qualifications and attach those before you write your resume. So if you are going for a job that requires writing skills, you may, I'll just side note before you write your resume, just write down and jot that note like, okay, this is what I've written. Don't put just generally in fiction, but you may want to put your nonfiction writing skills if it's a job that's requiring in that type of situation, or that you've written essays for something, or put all those things in there that pertain to that writing.
Well, that makes me
Little.
think like if you're on a website and you got to pay attention and really go through it with a fine tooth comb, because that could be like a keyword, like, oh, well,
Mhm.
here, we do a lot of manual writing for IKEA or something like that.
Mhm.
So if you pick up on that, I'm just off the top of my head, landscaping or manual writing, grab those keywords and make sure you put
Mhm.
them in your resume so that they pick up on that. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. They're kind of in line with what we already do. So, oh, I've
Yeah.
written 3 manuals for this and that. Oh, great.
Well, and here's, and like I said in the beginning, there is a digital format as well. So you may want to make sure you go through the descriptions and make sure it's not requesting that you have online examples of your work, depending on what the work might be. So sometimes in the art field, for example, tattooing. Right now, my oldest, she's wanting to get in as an apprentice, and so she's went to several large tattoo shops in Columbus area. And one guy, he's like, "Let me give you some advice. If you're going, the old traditional style was you show them your portfolio, and that's basically your resume is what you can do as an artist." So he said, if you're going to a shop that is run by an older tattoo artist, you want to make sure you have a physical portfolio. But if you want to have a portfolio resume situation for newer tattoo shop owners, you want it to be digital. You need a website, you need an Instagram, you need, something digitally that your work is on so they can see it, because they're going to go there and they're going to scroll. They're not going to sit there and look through the pages of your book.
No, I agree. I mean, digital press kits are huge now. I remember way back in the day, I just done a few television shows, and my first book was out, and I had studied a lot on like how to get on radio, and
Hmm.
that was back before you had online press kits. And one of the big things was if you got to mail them this package, and you put it in a folder. They had me get like bright red folders because everyone else is a manila or black or something. You're like, wait a minute, that one's really standing out. Of course,
Hmm.
now it's about that, and there are many sites to help you do that. Now, with a lot of, because this is always right, this isn't always just about tattooing or music or books. If you're going for a job as a school teacher, or at some college or university, or in whatever field you're being, they use, I can't remember the name of it, applicant tracking system, the ATS.
Hmm.
So they may not really need an online press kit or resume of you.
Right.
They're going to have like, here's what you do here, here's how you fill it out. And I know I'm just looking at notes now. The ATS, it's a way to streamline the process for managing the job applications, tracking candidates, scheduling interviews, and choosing the right talent for the
Right.
job. So back in the day when they started this, everyone was really picky. Like, you got to use certain fonts, and don't use columns or tables, blah 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 blah. It's really
Double
not.
space after a sentence.
Yeah, and it's not like that anymore. You don't have to think about a format to be perfect. I think they're more worried about the skill set, what you have to develop, than if you have a column or a table. So there is not, like you said earlier, there's not one size fits all for
Right.
this.
I this is taking me back to my first, not my, yeah, I think it might have been my first resume, out of high school, because I had zero experience other than I worked for Wendy's, and I had a lot of opportunities as an artist though, And so I had my nail license and I was working part-time at a nail shop on one of the side streets in Ohio, and I needed more income. So one of the attorneys in town, his wife was a huge fan of mine, and she said,
You make the
um,
best Wendy's burgers ever.
no.
Oh, okay.
Well, I played Wendy though, so most of the
Oh,
times I was up front. Yeah, I was up front, either running the cash register or I was out there with a wig on and playing Wendy. Um. Anyways, I went, or she said to me, "You would be great working for the Pixleys." And I'm like, "I don't know who that is." And she's like, "Well, they're an upcoming marketing company, and they're a married couple, and they need someone to apprentice for them and help. And I really think you should throw your name in the hat because I spoke highly of you, and they would be interested in talking to you." I'm like, "Okay, what do I do?" She's like, "Put together a resume." I'm like, "What?" And I didn't have the internet back then to look up a resume. I just had the basic, go to the library and figure out what's in a resume. We didn't have the internet to go and be like, fill in my resume. So I, being a creative person, I had a full ride scholarship to art school. I had worked with the Chamber of Commerce with creating this huge mural thing for the state fair. I'd had like in high school, like the literary editor. These were like tiny things. These were not business oriented things. So if you're just starting out with a resume and you have no experience technically as a job, but you've done things for people, you could list those things when you're first starting out because it is experience. But what I did was I found this really cool paper. I went to, like, I think Staples or Kinko's or something like that, and found a really cool paper and had it all typed out on there and stuff. And I remember sitting in the interview and they're like, "Why did you choose this paper?" I'm like, "Did you remember my resume?" And like, "Yeah, because it stood out." I'm like, "That's why." And they're like,
exactly.
and so being a marketing company, they were like, "That's genius because that's what we do is we want our ads to stand out." And so yeah, I got hired and I got to work with like some of the bigger hospitals and income. I got to do seminars and stuff. I got a lot of experience under their belt. I learned, like, that was when the big MacBook, or the not MacBook, but the big Macs came out with the back color.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. So this was like kind of like a stepping stone in learning how to market, was working for those people, for their little company or whatever. So yeah, I remember my first resume helped me understand how that world works.
No, I think that's great. It's like the red folder that what I was studying told me to do. So
Yeah,
when you
stood
did
out.
it, because I mean, when you think of a resume, you don't have. If a recruiter is going through these, they're not going to spend all day going through 6, 7 pages. You got like 8 to 10 seconds to really grab them. So
Hmm.
when you
Yeah,
made
you
that
don't need a
resume,
paragraph.
yeah. So like I'm thinking 1, 2 pages max is what you would do to make sure that you pull them in, they can read it really quick and they can move on.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
Uh,
I'm reading your notes because you put
yeah, I'm
together
just
these
thinking
notes
about it. You know
in
me,
this
I read them.
episode.
I done forgotten about them. So I'm looking at them. You just said a paragraph. So like use relevant and
Relevant.
clear section headings. You know,
Is that relevant and elegant together?
yeah, relevant. That's a new word. We came up with
Mm-hmm.
one not too long ago.
Kroll.
Scrolls. Is that what it was?
Kroll.
Crow. Okay.
Kroll.
Something like that. Relevant. Add
It's
that to the
it,
list.
Kroll is the cruel trolls.
That's right. Crows.
Yes.
Relegant. Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Let's create our own
I'm
language
writing
in
these
a book.
down.
Yes. So you want to have sections like your summary at the end. You want to have list your experience. That's a section. Education, your skills, introduce yourself. When you have use a header. I'm jumping ahead. You do want to use a header for your contact information and a summary section to help recruiters get that quick overview of what you're all about. Quick points on your contact info. City and state are fine. You don't need a home address. You definitely use a professional email address. I had a student, but like don't use skullcrusher69 at yahoo.com. You want to have like Jaime at JaimeVendera.com. You want to have something that makes sense. I had this singer. I can't even remember the name of it, but very nice girl. She is a singer. She's also on OnlyFans. And it was like, mamapoundsallday.com or something crazy for an email. And I'm like, okay, this is a joke. But she called me. She said, no, I really want to work on my rasp. And I'm like, okay. But I wouldn't put a email like that on a resume. Definitely
No.
something simple. If you don't
Oh
have
my
a
gosh.
website, then it could be jaimevendera@gmail.com. Something simple. Use your name.
Mhm.
Make sure you have. This is an important one because a lot of people don't do this. I don't do this, and I should because I get calls all day. Make sure you have a voicemail set up and that your voice mailbox is not full. Because what if they call you and like, hey, we want to schedule you for an interview, and you missed it because it's game night or you're at another job, you have it turned off, and you don't catch it to 3 days later. You're like, oh, that's the job I wanted, and you missed it because of that.
Mhm.
Period. Exclamation
Period.
points. Crows. Relegant. All right. What about a summary?
I'm starting a list.
All right. You know
I've got my
me.
little list.
JDHD words.
Yes.
So
We'll just keep adding to those.
it's just a summary.
Summary when you're creating your summary, it's kind of like you're pitching. You're pitching yourself. You're an overview of who you are. It's when you write your resume, or not your resume, when you write your summary of your book versus a synopsis. It's not quite as big. It's not as overpowering, but it's kind of like taking who you are and shortening it in the best way possible with throwing out the fluff pieces, like the stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're getting right to the point. So you're talking about, like, again, I mentioned this a minute ago, like experience, education, skills, your strengths, and you don't want them to have to read 15 paragraphs. You're like talking 1, 2, 3 sentences for each. You want to summarize it, get it at the top, and so they know they can read that in like 10, 15 seconds, and they know what you have to offer.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I feel like we've said this before in an episode that if you want to know if you're being too wordy, say it to someone.
Yep.
Say, okay, this is what I'm putting, or read it out loud if you don't have someone that you could read it out to, or if you're introverted and you don't feel like saying it to someone, just read it out loud to yourself and say, okay, this is too long. Or as I suggested, get into Grammarly or any kind of like writing app that you have, and type it out and then highlight it and click the improve it part and say, shorten this for me. And it'll give you the key points.
It's so funny because we just had, not too long ago, Jeff Rivera, and Jeff's a good buddy of mine, and you and I and him talked about AI even off the podcast, and I have been experimenting with it, but I have been using it. I write like articles for Vendera Vocal Academy or Dr. Box, and I look at it and I'm like, hey, this happened the other day. I was posting something on Instagram and I realized I write like I talk. Like, hear me talk to you? Yeah, I couldn't put that in a resume. I'd be in trouble. But I've stuck it into ChatGPT. It's like, hey, this is like 782 words. Can you shorten this to 300? Because this is a little ridiculous. And I've been getting, I love it. I mean, it's like, okay, I can just word vomit and get everything out, and then use ChatGPT to really tighten it up and get the key points that mean something, and get rid of all the fluff and the extra words.
I don't use ChatGPT. Like I said, I use Grammarly, and then I found a new one, which we can talk about that one later.
I don't know. I went pseudo right. I was sumo wrestling. That's what it was.
Sumo wrestling.
Yeah.
Sumo wrestling.
Oh, I'm signing up Monday. I'm not gonna lie. I'm telling everybody because
I like Grammarly. I have told people how this works. And we'll do an episode maybe on all of our favorite AIs at some point. But like I've explained that it's not an AI that writes for you. It is an AI that helps your current writing because you have to do all these things. So we can talk about that on a completely separate episode. But yeah, definitely something that I'm enjoying and helping me keep organized. You still have to do all the writing.
Okay, so that's for Grammarly, correct? Or pseudo-write? Okay, just making sure. Okay.
Well, both. They don't write it for you. Yeah. I mean, they have options to write it for you, but like that's.
Well, no, I was confused for a minute because I thought you meant Grammarly. I was like, why don't I use Grammarly or pseudo-write? But I talked to them because you said, and you're absolutely right. I'm for Sigil 4, so I don't have to hear you, crack the whip on me for 16 more months. Now that we just updated the books, I can put all 3 into pseudo-write. It will read and study it. And as I start book 4, if I'm like, Pim the Knife and his red hair, he doesn't have red hair. It's going to keep me on point
Oh
so I
yeah.
don't make a mistake, and it'll keep me in the
Yes.
same writing.
Yeah, you're still writing it. Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll actually add that to the set list, and we'll talk about how Grammarly works and can benefit you as a writer. Talk about SudoWrite can help you. You use ChatGPT and help you. Again, they can do it for you, but there's options where it just helps you as a tool.
Yep.
It's no different than having, um, an editor. And like Jeff, like 2 weeks ago on the episode, Jeff said it's just helping you clean up the system before you send it to a human. We're not getting rid of the human. We still need the human factor.
I agree. At first I was a little put off by it, but I seen a musician talking about way back when you were in a studio and recorded a 2-inch tape. And then came the ADAT machine, which was like a VHS tape, but it was digitized. And now we have a digital audio workstation, like a Logic Pro and Pro Tools. And when it first came out, people were balking, that's cheating. You got to be, if you're going to be a real musician, you got to do it on tape, and you take one time. You can redo the part 15 times and choose what you want. That's not even right. You're putting people out of jobs. Really? Has it put anyone out of a job? If you're an artist and you're a writer, you still have to be a writer. And I see people using AI to create their books, and I'm just going to be honest. I've read a couple. They're not good.
Well, and again, we can have this in another episode and have this argument again, because I feel like there are positions where I could see where it takes jobs, but at the same time, I can see where it enhances jobs.
Yep.
So it's no different than anything else. Certain things are going to help, certain things are going to hinder. So.
Yep. So so my notes on here say focus on what's relevant. So resumes are relevant. JDHC, go away. Quit talking about AI. So let's talk about.
But you know what? Relevancy, you never know. Find out if this company uses AI. Are you familiar with AI? Do you know how AI works? What AI softwares have you used? Because some places do that, especially when it comes to using them for plagiarism. How do you think your people check for plagiarism? They're not skimming the web. They have to use a Google. It's just a faster way to Google.
Yep. So speaking of the job with focus on what's relevant. If you were a receptionist, which is great to add on there, but that doesn't really matter if you're applying for like a career advisor role, assuming you have other relevant experiences. So focus on what relates to that job to pull you in. I honestly think you putting stuff in your resume for the marketing company, the murals you done, it did. Because what is marketing? A lot of it's visual. So that was relevant where, well, I got to say this, maybe even dressing up as Wendy was relevant. Because look, I marketed Wendy's. So.
Well, I mean, essentially, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. So.
You have one of the things that you have here on your notes is you put in there your work ethic. So I find when I have my resume, because I have my name, and there are templates, you can go on Word. I know Word has, when you're creating a document, you can do start blank, or they have resume templates, and you can decide how you want. And you just input things and just change what it says. So there are templates for resumes on a lot of, writing software. So you can do that. But where it says work ethic, I'm starting to feel a sneeze coming on. Right after you get the basic information of your name, all these things like your address or your phone number, email, whatever. I always like to put a quote. I don't know if you've ever done that, but I like to have like a little quote that kind of inspires who you are.
I put, life is like a box of chocolates.
Oh my gosh, Forrest.
All right. Get serious.
Yeah.
You have the stage.
No, I mean, I always put like a little quote, something that I find inspirational. And I feel like that can sometimes allude to the type of person you are, and how your work ethic is. Because I remember when I worked for the salon, and I've had this when I work for other people, like it's almost like you own it. They know that you respect their business as if you own the business. And it's because my grandmother, and it might have been Zig Ziglar, back in the day, who had this quote, but I'm not sure, where you work as if you own the business or you'll never own it.
No, that's great. I even remember working in construction, and I forget who told me this, and I tried to abide by it. What if this was your company and, you can't lose money on this job? Don't, because you have a lot of, it's true. I have a lot of construction workers, they just goof off, and you're trying to get a job done. And like, well, you're getting paid to do there. So you need to apply that job like it is your job, and this is your money you're playing with. So, and if you make that company money, what are they going to do for you? They're going to respect you. You're going to have a good job. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to get raises. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely,
Yeah. Yeah. So you just kind of you work as if your name is already on the door. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All
Until you
right.
put the name on the door. So okay. All right. Volunteer work counts.
Mm-hmm.
Which so here in Florida, the girls have to have like service hours for their diplomas. And I know there's like a school in Ohio that was near us that did that, but the school that we went to in Ohio did not do that. They didn't require service hours or volunteer hours, but here you do. You have to have service hours, and simply just, helping out at church or braiding other teammates' hair, as long as there's pictures for it. Little things that you're doing to help others count as service and goes on their thing for college stuff. So, yeah, it starts them out like understanding that, hey, volunteering works. It shows that you're
Well,
willing to put yourself out there for no money.
yeah, it shows that you care. Quantify whenever you can, because employers like numbers. So, like if you worked at another job and there's a percentage of your increased sales. Maybe you're a marketer and you're like, look, I have helped these people, this dentist office, increase their profits by 37%. Or
Hmm.
mention how big of a team you manage. I manage 20 people and I supervise them.
Hmm.
If I was working construction, I would do that. I've supervised and ran bridge decks and had 20, 30 people working for me. So all of that counts. They want to see what you can handle, what numbers you can meet. So numbers are important. It shows impact. Definitely put that into your resume if it applies for you to
Well,
you.
and something I think you skipped over, maybe I didn't hear you say this, but it's in your notes. Is tell us the budget you managed and why that is important.
No, I skipped
Is
over that.
yeah,
It's
yes.
this. It's the
Uh,
water's kicking in.
oh, blame the water now. Poor water. Didn't do anything but sit there and tell you to drink,
It's
and
good to
it's
be
like
back.
getting blamed. Whatever. No, so telling the budget that you've managed is important because when you are telling somebody that's a big corporation that you may have only worked with a small little budget, they may not hire you for the sheer fact you don't know how to budget a larger mass of things. Or when they do hire you, they're going to put you in a smaller capacity at first, and then maybe you work to a larger capacity position. So that is essential. Or if you have worked with a large budget, that might be your in.
Absolutely.
And some companies might be like, hey, we're a small budget. We need someone. Are you familiar with how to manipulate small budgets? So small budget could be essential because they don't have a big budget and they
This
need
is where
someone.
it's important to really study up on that company
Yeah.
to see what they. I mean, I don't think they're going to say we got a small budget, but I mean, you can look and see like how many employees they have and stuff.
Well,
So you,
small budget could be a nonprofit. So you don't have a huge budget to play with. You have a nonprofit, so you're not profiting technically, but you have to budget based on what, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So
yep.
it is key, I feel like, knowing exactly what you're working with. So,
All righty. So what about education?
well, obviously that's relevant. So, do you have any certificates? Do you have any licensures? What do you have that is essential for this job, for getting this job? I know that when my husband worked in the hospital, there were different credentials that were required to work at the hospital, the local hospital there. And some of them were required to have within the first 2 years of working. Okay. So and then there's a tier, like I'm going to say the acronyms wrong. But like MLS or MLT, like you went to school for it. We have a proof that you went to school for it, but you haven't got your certification. You need to have your certification within 2 years. If you already have your certification, put it on there. But if you have your degree and then you're like, pending certification, testing, maybe taking it this date or whatever. But I know for certain that someone that worked there had schooling, so they had that on their resume, but they worked there for 5 years. And after a certain point, you can no longer just go take the test. You had to go back to school
Yep.
because you didn't take the test. They never took the test. So they got all the schooling, but never took the test to get their license. So they worked and were grandfathered in, but as soon as they went to go get a job somewhere else, they could not apply for the job with that on their resume because it was no longer valid.
Yep. I've known of somebody that's done that.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. If you're in nursing or social work, all that, you have to stay up on your
Mm-hmm.
credits you got to get every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known people that went to college, went to take the certification, didn't pass it, still got a job, didn't finish it. And, like you said, if they switch jobs, they're in trouble. But you also got to look at what you have. I mean, if you got a certified nursing assistant certification, but you decide to go to work as a union carpenter, you're not going to need to mention that. And if I'm going to be a marketing manager and I came from construction and I was in health and safety and I had an OSHA certificate, they're not going to need to know that. You don't need to put that type of stuff. It's great that you have it, but you got to look at what education is going to apply to what job that you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Mal, we're almost to the end of these notes.
We've reached the end of these notes.
I got skills. That's because we're going to talk about skills.
Skills, yes. It's often helpful to include the skills, even if it doesn't necessarily. Would you say even if your job doesn't include typing speed? Oh,
I'm just throwing stuff out there. You know me, I can't really put sentences together when I'm all ADHD. Like if your job doesn't include, like if I'm a manager and I don't really care about your typing speed or running certain computer programs or even leading team building exercises. If these are like really good skills, or like I'm a tightrope walker, I'm not saying you got to apply that one, but if you have a specific skill that you're really good at.
Well, but that would go up. Don't you think that part, like say you were a tightrope walker and that's kind of like who you are, you could put that in about yourself, like in your little summary, like aside from doing this.
Yeah, because then it'd be like that guy from Jackson. Look at me. I can break glass and walk a tightrope. But no, it would work. It would make you exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and that's why I feel like you need to lay it out first to see where things need to be like, oh, this needs to go here, this needs to go down here. Yeah,
I would hire a tightrope walker. I don't care what they were. If I needed a dog walker and I knew they could walk a tightrope, that would make me remember them.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious.
I'm back. So we haven't been together for 2 weeks filming, by the way. So I'm like really
right. Yes. It's and I feel like it's like been so long that it's like I don't know. It's like we're texting back and forth. Are we still meeting tomorrow? Are we still getting together?
Like, you didn't forget me. It's like, no, I'm ready. Let's do it now. No, then I was asleep like 10 minutes later.
That's funny. No.
Yeah. So again, it's not a one size fits all. If it were me, I would go back through this entire episode and take notes. Because, and then again, you can build your online portfolio. You could find, like you said, in Word, already a template for this. But find something that fits you or find something that's less used. And
something that we did not. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say pick different color paper. Go ahead now. Now you can go ahead. I swear you can go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
So something that we didn't mention, obviously, you could do LinkedIn. A lot of times places use LinkedIn to be out there in the world. People will find you. So, create a LinkedIn, and it's essentially an online resume for people to find you. And you could put yourself out there, like what you're looking for and things like that.
And I think LinkedIn is important you mention that because it's TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. We forgot about MySpace. I think sometimes people look at LinkedIn almost like MySpace, like it's not there, but it's because it's very specific.
Business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't discard that.
Yes. Yeah, I had thought about that until I put it off to the side, but LinkedIn is something that people should definitely get in there. Make sure you send notifications. If you're looking for a job, get on there, put what you're looking for, what your qualifications. So it's basically an online resume. So get that started along with when you're doing it on a Word or if you're printing it out and taking it places, just kind of make sure that you have all facets covered. So
great.
And it may even say on the business, this is what we check. So.
Yeah, we hope you had fun today. I'm sorry I'm a little slow on talking. I'll go take some caffeine after this so we can film the next one.
Don't drink caffeine.
People are like, he's on crack right now. What are you talking about? Gosh.
You and your crack and your water. Although, you know you're not doing meth because your teeth always look great. Yeah.
You say that, but my niece, when she's in class, she says, Uncle Jaime, why is your top teeth so white and your bottom teeth are yellow? I wanted to smack this little 4-year-old. If it wasn't meant for my brother, hold my hand. No, I'm teasing.
Oh my gosh.
I said, baby, I need bigger Crest White strips for the bottom. That's the only thing I can tell you.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. And if you'd like to find us, you can go to the allwayswritepodcast.com. You can click on any of those icons. You can follow us on social media. You can listen to us on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, and you can even subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can see our lovely faces. Also, if you would like, if you want to see Jamie's whites, his top whites, if you would like to offer suggestions for an episode, or you have comments on an episode, or you just want to reach out and share a story, even like a favorite book or line that you have from a book, be sure to email us at allwayswritepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you. So, as always, I'm author Karisa DeLay, and I appreciate you listening, and this is
JDHD, and we shall see you in the next podcast.
all right. Thanks for listening, and always write.